Hi, everyone. Welcome to your next session here at RETCON Multifamily. Today, I'm super excited to welcome our next speaker, Stacy Holden, Senior Director and Industry Principal at AppFolio. Stacy, welcome.
Hi, everybody. So excited to have you here. Thank you so much, James. And I'm really excited to talk to everybody a little bit about artificial intelligence and property management today. So let's get started. So here's the reality. Technology, it has enabled people to communicate at all hours of the day and in multiple ways. Here are some examples of text messages when people are looking for a place to live. This volume of communication isn't just residents or tenants, it's vendors, owners, your peers. And it's not just the texting, there's email and the old school voicemail. So how do we keep up with it all? Well, I want you to meet Alex. Alex is like most of us. They want a job with purpose. For example, making a difference in their customers' lives. Having a job where you're excited to be at work and know that your best talents are being put to use, not just every day, but for the majority of the day. Alex wants a job that matters, but again, here's the reality. With the volume of communication and data requirements today, most of us spend more or most of our time either entering data, responding to those questions, and more time behind the computer than really the jobs that we want to be doing. Well, Alex is not alone. In a recent survey, 67% of office workers would be willing to take a pay cut in order to have technology that is twice as good as what they're using today. Today's effective employees demand technology that enables them to be better at what they do at work. Well, with that said, Alex might want to look for a job, one that matters. So a job hunting we go. Alex comes across the first property management posting. Here is a list of the requirements. Check, check, pretty much what Alex is doing today. Well, then comes along another opportunity, same title, different company. And here was the list of requirements. Well, similar, yes, but sounds much more exciting, really more what Alex is looking for. What about you? Compare company A and company B. Which company would you rather work for? And if you're the employer, what type of employee would you want to be on your team? People are soul searching today. They're questioning what they want to do, what their competencies are, and where their interests are. Now, property management is a great career path. And bottom line, these are the types of people that you may want in your dynamic and growing business. But how can company B be offering a job where those talents are at the forefront and not have to be concerned about the effective email response time? The exciting part about property management space today is with the technology of artificial intelligence and machine learning, we can now automate a lot of those obvious things people are doing today, which enables them to spend time on what really does matter. In a recent survey, we asked some of our customers, what are your top challenges today? I'm going to walk you through what they've shared. These align with a lot of challenges that I've heard in many conversations throughout the industry. And the good news is all of these challenges can be aided by technology. Number one, there are too many manual processes. I think we've heard this 1,000 times before. Manually entering invoice information and typing. Similar answers to emails over and over again. Getting physical signatures for approval, compiling reports and stuffing them into envelopes. The other one Let's talk about number 2, hiring and training. A lot of time and energy is spent recruiting, interviewing, and training new hires. A lot. And in this recent survey, 90% of teams still had physical operational manuals, either in a physical binder or in a Google Doc, instead of being part of your actual technology. The challenge of managing these teams: employees expect more. Now, let's flip the switch and talk about attracting new residents. Here's another challenge. Because of the pandemic, many companies are not requiring physical presence, at least physical presence on a full-time basis. So we've seen a lot of people moving. They're no longer tied to a location. So how do you attract this new type of resident to your properties? Many people want to sign a lease today without even seeing the unit or putting a foot in its physical presence. So how do you draw them unless you have a way to do things virtually? What kind of technology is being offered? Now, this one, managing expenses. Yes, definitely a challenge, but I think it's interesting that through the pandemic, it's a little bit different. Where expenses may in the past need to be reduced, there's more of a force function of spending the money more in a more effective way, just because of the changes in the industry. Disruption, change. Paper leases, paper, everything's been there forever. And again, let's go back to the force function of this pandemic. I think it's really increased the ability for our industry to take a different look at technology. We've heard from many of you in the industry that these self-inflicted obstacles and challenges of your current procedures today, that they are getting in the way, and acknowledging that the organization itself can be the biggest obstacle when it comes to creating that change. And the realization that it's true, your business may be behind in some ways. So what are people doing about it? Well, this is where we enter the discussion of technology and how it's going to be used in property management a little bit now, but much more in the future. So let's talk about the hype. And in AI technology, we all know this gives us the ability to automate many things that were previously impossible to automate. Understanding the content of the human language. Photos, videos, not only reading language, but understanding the voice. Those are just a few examples. There have been numerous research studies where organizations have predicted that the market size for artificial intelligence will be over $13 trillion. That's the impact AI will bring to the space. Now, that's a huge number, but tech giants like Amazon, Google, Apple, and Facebook, they're all heavily invested in R&D for artificial intelligence to make it more accessible for businesses to use every day. But you're asking, okay, what are the some of the impacts for property management that we might see? Well, if you can streamline processes, get rid of tedious work activities, reduce or reallocate staff to more meaningful work, you'll be able to take those dollars, whether they're saved or reinvest them in your business, whether it's scaling more or being more effective. AI doesn't solve everything, and we recognize that. There's something very human about property management space, which is why a lot of us work here today. I'm excited to talk about how AI can help you and your team focus on the things that only humans can do. Let me share a quick example. Just think about what happened with the shutdowns back in last March. If you were an organization that already had adopted some digital processes, you were a lot less impacted than the organizations that were relying only on physical, either paper or in-person contact. Take example of a company that had virtual leasing solution. They were able to continue their operations with very, very little disruption, showing the units when they need to be shown to the prospects that were willing to rent them. Now, for those that didn't, there was a lot of lost valuable time, several weeks of that financial impact because there was no embracement of technology. There is hype around AI because digital technology gives us the ability to extend our team's capabilities and automate many things that were previously unthinkable. So let's break down some of the artificial intelligence elements with some examples. So, as a technology partner at AppFolio, we think it's really important that we stay ahead of the curve. Our customers trust us to bring technology to them, to enable them to deliver on the human side of their business. There are a few key areas where we think AI can make an impact. One is with natural language processing or natural language understanding. That is one large domain of artificial intelligence technology that we're working with today. This could be seen as speech recognition, like how you interact with Alexa or Siri, or text recognition when you interact with a chatbot. Another element is around what we can do with images. That's video and image recognition. These are technologies that allow for data entry automation, improve security, and could potentially allow for visual inspections and helping maintenance in the future. And then lastly, we have anomaly detection. As an industry, we have a lot of data that's flowing through our system. AI is actually quite good at detecting things that don't fit a pattern, and definitely better than sometimes the humans such as myself. Looking into process and auditing controls where we see a future application in this space. These are just some of the elements of artificial intelligence and technology that we're keeping abreast of. And we will see real world products using these in the near term. Now, keep in mind, we are all using AI today in one form or another. We may just not realize it. These technologies are already improving our lives. Artificial intelligence today focuses mostly on the little things that make our lives a little easier so we can spend more time on what matters. It takes us away from the mundane and allows us to focus on higher value activities. Why can we spend time on those higher value activities, or why? Well, first, artificial intelligence can do things faster than any person, not only faster, but with consistency and much higher quality. Not just that, but the data is automatically captured, so it allows us to make more effective business decisions. So that's all great, but let's break it down for property management. I want to walk through an example. For today's conversation, I want to focus on leasing. What this represents is a typical leasing workflow. Some of the steps can be already automated today, but some still, and we prefer, require that personal intervention. So let's break it down. Taking that same workflow that I just showed you and divided it into steps above the line and below the line. Everything above the blue line takes a personal or human interaction. Those items below the line can be automated with technology. Think of it this way. Each time something crosses the line, it's some type of user interface. This is a great way to see how these workflows can be accomplished, and the more of the routine boxes we can get below the line, the more time you and your team can spend on those personal interactions that have the highest value. The human role is always going to be there, but we need to automate as much as possible so we can focus on things that we excel at. So what I'd like to do is go through a few examples of the impact of artificial intelligence and enabling technologies within real estate and property management today. Remember in the beginning, all of those emails and texts and phone calls that we were talking about? Well, there are leasing assistants powered by artificial intelligence. Well, what does that mean? This gives your prospective resident a thoughtful experience 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, by not only answering their questions, but scheduling showings based on availability, to even taking them through the application process. All of this is done in a conversational way. So let's go back to Alex. What does that mean for Alex? Well, instead of answering the same questions over and over and over again, they can spend more time directly with just those potential residents that are truly interested in the unit, and more time with their existing residents, building connections in a better community. So there's no more emailing back and forth. Are you available at 2? No, I'm available at 3. I can't do 3. How about 4? The leasing assistant takes care of that for them. Oh, and remember, because this is artificial intelligence, all of this data is being captured. So when it comes to the first time that Alex is ready to have a personal or maybe virtual interaction, all of that information is thoughtfully served up so that they're prepared, instead of having to ask that prospective resident questions over and over again. So another example of enabling technology is giving the ability for residents to be able to have a personal connection when looking at a unit, even though they can't be there in person. This is virtual leasing. So if your potential resident can't meet in person, but still wants to see the unit, no worries. Property managers can launch a virtual showing, much like FaceTime, where prospective residents can see you giving them a tour of the unit, and the property manager or leasing agent can actually see the prospective resident. So again, let's go back to Alex. Why would Alex want to work for a company that has virtual leasing? Well, as you can see here, all the necessary information that the potential resident has already provided is served up for Alex. So it can apply that personalized experience to the tour. It also means, why did we hire Alex in the first place? Well, their ability to close units more effectively and build a better community. They'll be able to do that with virtual leasing. Now, these are just 2 examples where technology provides automation to allow someone like Alex to spend more time on what matters. But automation is not just limited to the leasing experience. For the accounting and more data-driven folks, such as myself, machine learning has things like bill entry. Here's how it works. So vendors will send invoices electronically to an email address. Invoices are processed and data is actually even populated. Yes, even coding the invoices. Machine learning gets better with volume. The more invoices that are processed, the more AI learn more that the data is actually populated. Go back to Alex. This is why Alex would be excited, because now, instead of spending all the time typing in information, they're simply looking at invoices, maybe doing some edits on a mobile device if necessary, and then sending them along for payment. Well, not only does this free up Alex for manual tasks, but think about the time to approval and payment for your vendors. Don't you think that would be a better experience and delighting the vendors as well? This is all great, but what does this mean and what kind of impact is on the business? Now, I want to talk through an example, and let's talk about data. Because now that we're using things like AI and machine learning to automatically get data into the system, well, what we now have more data than we've ever seen before. What does that mean? Let me give you an example with the leasing assistant. One of our customers took on the virtual leasing assistant, and the first thing that they noticed within the first 30 days, there was a 40% increase in lead and guest card activity. There was also a significant decrease in conversion rates. Well, why was that? No longer were we relying on anyone to enter information on lead generation or guest cards. That virtual leasing assistant had the ability of gathering all of that data. So of course our leads went up and our conversion rates went down because they had the data to actually look at. So not just the for sure prospective residents were being entered into the system. Well, what did that end up doing with the business? Well, let's talk about marketing spend. Now they could truly see with 100% accuracy where leads were coming from, what was interesting potential residents, and what pivots they needed to make. Better spend on marketing. So speaking of those expenses, there's a misconception when it comes to artificial intelligence that you will be basically tossing the keys to your business to a computer who's going to take care of everything and make those decisions. That's not true. It's simply a tool to enable your team to focus on the work, again, that matters. And when it's paired with project management tools, your team becomes unstoppable. Remember what we talked about before, those manuals? With the right technology, you can essentially replicate your policies and procedure manuals into your software. So while AI is offloading much of the manual repetitive tasks, a workflow tool removes the confusion about what to do next and who to involve. So your team can simply focus on the operations and being at the top of their game. Now, pairing those technologies is great, but there is a dance within the desire of technology and the execution of strategy. We did some survey work with some of our customers in AppFolio and found that tools such as like a workflow or a virtual leasing assistant actually streamlined their processes within a 3-month period, 80% of them. And it's not just the streamlining of the processes, it's getting your employees, again, higher level engagement and higher level of value. Well, technologies like the workflow tool and artificial intelligence enable your employees, such as we've experienced at AppFolio, 83% of them have reduced their onboarding time to less than a month. So let's go back and think about Alex, company A, company B. This is just some examples of companies that are leveraging technology today that are attracting the talents that they are looking for. These are just 5 customers that have been nominated as NAA's best place to work. They are leveraging technology today. These are where the next generation employees want to go to work. Technology, artificial intelligence, machine learning enables you to attract, inspire, and retain the talent that you're looking for. The best words are not mine. There are people that actually use the software every day today. It's time to embrace technology, and we're here to help. I want to thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate you spending a few minutes with me, learning about artificial and technology and where the property management space is going today. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. Would love to have a conversation with you. And I hope everyone has a beautiful day.
Stacy, thank you so much. That was a great presentation. I know everybody values your time and all the work that you're doing for the Alexes of the world. To everyone who joined us today, it's time to move on to your next session, your networking meeting, and feel free to check out a booth as well. Thanks again, Stacy, and everyone for joining us. Bye.